In a quiet corner of the wildlife rescue shelter, Titan, a majestic lion, sat with a sorrowful expression that weighed heavily on everyone who passed by. His deep, mournful roars echoed through the sanctuary, each cry a reminder of the family he had lost. Abandoned by the people who had once cared for him, Titan's sadness was more than just a fleeting emotion. It was a profound ache that seemed to consume him. His owners, heartbroken and unable to provide the care he needed, had left him there, unaware of the damage they had caused. They never knew how much their decision would affect Titan, how deeply his spirit would be crushed by the absence of the family he had known. Every day, Titan's sorrow grew as he curled up in his cage, his golden eyes distant, always searching for something, someone who would never return. In the stillness of the shelter, the lion's grief was palpable, a heavy weight that even the staff couldn't ignore. Dr. Lee, the head veterinarian, had watched Titan for weeks, troubled by the lion's deep sadness. He knew something had to be done to help the animal find peace, but as Titan's cries echoed once more, it was clear that the journey to heal this broken heart would be more complicated than anyone had imagined. How could they help a lion whose soul was shattered by the loss of everything he once knew? Dr. Alex Lee, the seasoned veterinarian at the wildlife rescue shelter, had been keeping a close eye on Titan, the heartbroken lion. One day, while tending to Titan's routine care, Dr. Lee noticed something unusual: a small metal tag attached to the lion's collar. His fingers brushed over the worn surface as he bent closer, squinting to make out the name etched on the tag. The letters didn't match any of the records from the shelter. It read, Zara, an unfamiliar name that left Dr. Lee puzzled. He straightened up, his mind racing with questions. Where had this collar come from? Why was it so different from the one listed in Titan's official documentation? Dr. Lee's curiosity got the best of him. He quickly called his assistant, Sophie, to come and take a look. Sophie walked over, her brows furrowed as she examined the tag. "This doesn't make sense," she murmured, her voice tinged with concern. "Zara, that's not right. We've never heard of that name before." The mystery deepened. Dr. Lee's mind churned with the possibilities. Could this be a clue to Titan's past, something the shelter had overlooked? Or was there another story hidden beneath the surface, one that no one had yet discovered? Whatever the case, Dr. Lee knew that Titan's journey was about to take a surprising turn. Something wasn't adding up, and he was determined to get to the bottom of it. Dr. Lee couldn't shake the feeling that something was off about Titan's situation. The name on the collar, Zara, didn't make any sense. Titan's previous owners, Marcus and Sophie Gray, had dropped him off at the shelter just a few weeks ago, citing that they could no longer care for him. But now, Dr. Lee wondered, why would a lion named Titan wear a collar with a different name? Something about this didn't sit right. Determined to get answers, Doctor. Lee started digging into Titan's history. He pulled out the Gray family's records, but as he scanned the documents, everything seemed too neat, too perfect. They'd provided all the usual information, but there was no mention of the collar or its mysterious engraving. Feeling increasingly uneasy, Doctor, Lee called Sophie, asking her to help him piece together the puzzle. Together they combed through every file, every detail. They double-checked the Gray family's contact information, but there was nothing about any other previous owners. As they matched up the facts, one thing became clear. The name on Titan's collar didn't belong to the Grays. It was as if it came from another chapter in his life, one that hadn't been accounted for. Dr. Lee's heart raced. Was Titan's abandonment tied to something deeper? There was a mystery buried in this lion's past, and Dr. Lee was determined to uncover the truth. Dr. Lee couldn't shake the nagging feeling that something was seriously wrong. Titan's story wasn't adding up. The lion had been a patient at the shelter for several years, but there was something off about the records. He was much older than he should be, and the file indicated that Titan had been in and out of care since his youth, far earlier than the Greys had claimed. This wasn't the same timeline they had provided when they dropped him off. Was it possible that Titan had been passed between multiple owners before the Greys? Dr. Lee's curiosity turned to suspicion. He couldn't ignore the growing doubts about the Greys' involvement. If they weren't his first owners, then who had cared for Titan before? Who was Zara, the name on the collar? The questions multiplied in his mind. Feeling the urgency to uncover the truth, Doctor, Lee decided to visit the Greys' home. The shelter had been their last known location, and it was time for a confrontation. But with each mile closer to their address, Dr. Lee could feel his heart race. The more he thought about the discrepancies, the more determined he became to uncover the real story. What had really happened to Titan? The answers lay behind the doors of the Greys' mansion, and Dr. Lee wasn't leaving until he found them. When Dr. Lee arrived at the Grey family mansion, he wasn't expecting what he found. A woman named Olivia, not the wife he had been led to believe would be home, answered the door. Her cold, reserved demeanor suggested that she knew more than she was letting on. After a brief introduction, Olivia hesitated but reluctantly agreed to let Dr. Lee examine old family albums from the time Titan was adopted. Something about the situation felt off, and Dr. Lee couldn't shake the feeling that he was about to uncover a truth that no one had wanted him to find. As Dr. Lee flipped through the dusty pages, one particular photograph stopped him dead in his tracks. There, in a photo from what seemed like years ago, was Titan, the same lion, wearing the same collar he had seen so many times before. But something was wrong. The name on the tag in the photograph wasn't Titan. It wasn't even close. The name on the collar in the picture read Rex, and his heart raced with realization. What did this mean? Why had Titan's name been changed? And more importantly, who was Rex? The deeper Dr. Lee dug, the more it became clear that Titan's past was far more complicated and far darker than anyone had been willing to admit. The mystery was unraveling, and Dr. Lee was now more determined than ever to uncover the full truth. Dr. Lee's head spun as Olivia finally began to speak. The truth, it seemed, was far stranger than he could have imagined. Titan wasn't always his name, she began, her voice soft yet tinged with a sense of sadness. He was just a cub when we first found him, abandoned by a circus. They were going to put him down because they couldn't afford to keep him anymore. Dr. Lee's heart sank as Olivia continued, revealing that Titan had spent his early years in the harsh world of circus life, performing tricks for crowds. He had been part of a life filled with noise, exploitation, and fear. Olivia paused, as if the weight of the story was almost too much to bear. We didn't know who his previous owner was. We just knew we couldn't let them kill him, so we brought him here, raised him as one of our own. Dr. Lee's mind raced. This new revelation was a game changer, but it only led to more questions. The lion he thought he understood, Titan, wasn't just a sad stray abandoned by a single family. Titan's life had been shaped by something far more complicated, far darker. Olivia's words hung in the air. Titan's journey may involve more than just one owner. Dr. Lee realized that Titan's past was even more layered than he had thought, and the search for answers had just begun. Dr. Lee sat in stunned silence as Olivia's suggestion settled in. Titan might have two families? It was a theory that seemed far-fetched at first, but as the pieces of Titan's past continued to fall into place, it made more sense. The Grey family had taken him in after his years with the circus, giving him a stable, loving home. But what if there was more to his story? Olivia recalled the brief encounters with other families, visitors who had loved Titan during his early years before he was fully integrated into the Grey home. They all wanted to be part of his life, yet circumstances had separated them. With a growing sense of clarity, Dr. Lee began to see the full picture. Titan, who had endured years of captivity, deserved more than a solitary existence in one home. Why not let him have both? Olivia suggested. The idea was daring but humane. Why not allow Titan to experience the love of both families, sharing time between them as he wished? It would be a life filled with care, joy, and a sense of belonging in both places. Both families agreed the bond they shared over Titan was too powerful to deny. Dr. Lee felt a wave of relief. Titan would finally have the life he deserved, not confined by the past, but embraced by two homes where love and freedom awaited. Titan's transformation was nothing short of miraculous. The once wary and broken lion began to trust Dr. Lee and the dedicated staff at the shelter. It wasn't easy. The scars of his past, both physical and emotional, ran deep. Yet with patience and care, Titan's demeanor softened. He grew to recognize that he was safe in the shelter, surrounded by people who genuinely cared for him. But despite the progress, Titan's past was still never far from his heart. He held on to the memories of his earlier days, his life with the Gray family, the rescue efforts, and the love he had once received. A final reunion between the Gray family and Titan's original rescuers brought a sense of closure. The two families, now united by their shared love for Titan, realized that he no longer had to choose between them. He could have both homes, both families, and all the love he could ever need. This poignant moment marked the culmination of a long journey, one that spoke to the power of second chances. As Titan basked in the affection of both families, it was a reminder to all: adopting and caring for animals in need is more than just an act of kindness. It's a gift of love that transforms lives. Let Titan's story inspire you to give hope and new beginnings to animals in need.